Before any war is won, it must be imagined. Every empire begins as an idea, bold, unreasonable, terrifying. Most men are slaves to safety. I chose conquest, not for vanity, but for vision. Greatness demands obsession. You must want your goal so fiercely that even your failures feel like progress. Set no limits, accept no comfort. Command your focus like an army. A true leader shapes reality with his will. He does not wait for conditions to be perfect. He makes them so. So ask yourself, are you building an empire or are you still begging for approval? Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind, and tell us, where are you watching from? There is a plague more dangerous than any I encountered on the battlefields of Europe. It has destroyed more potential than any army, crushed more dreams than any defeat. This disease? Small thinking. I watch you, the masses, setting your goals, like beggars negotiating for scraps. I want a better position. I hope to earn a little more. Maybe one day I'll start my own business. These are not goals. These are symptoms of a mind infected with mediocrity. Here's what most people don't understand. When you think small, you don't protect yourself from failure, you guarantee it. The energy required to achieve a modest goal is often the same as that needed to achieve a magnificent one. Yet you choose the modest path, believing it to be safer. I did not become Emperor of France by seeking to become a better lieutenant. The scale of your thinking determines the scale of your results. This is not philosophy. This is strategy. But let me ask you this. What terrifies you more, the possibility of failing greatly or the certainty of succeeding small? Your answer reveals whether you have the mindset of a soldier or an emperor. When I planned the conquest of Europe, my generals often counseled caution. It's too ambitious, they said. It cannot be done. These same men later led armies to victories they had once deemed impossible. Why? Because they were forced to expand their thinking to match my vision. You must wage a constant war against the limitations others would impose upon you. Society rewards comfortable mediocrity. It celebrates modest achievements. It encourages you to be realistic. This is the vocabulary of surrender. The truly ambitious goal should frighten you. It should wake you in the night. It should demand transformation. If your goals don't make others uncomfortable, they are too small. If your plans don't sound absurd to the average person, you're thinking like the average person. Small thinking is a prison built by fear and maintained by comfort. Every time you reduce your goals to make them more realistic, you're not being wise, you're being a coward. You are negotiating with your own potential, trying to reduce it to a manageable size. Let me teach you the strategy of imperial thinking. Start with an objective so grand it seems impossible. Then work backward, not to reduce the goal, but to plot its inevitable achievement. This is how empires are built. This is how history is made. The small thinker asks, what is possible? The imperial mind asks, what must be done? Then they bend reality until it yields to their vision. You fear being labeled arrogant or unrealistic? Good. These criticisms come from those who have already surrendered to smallness. Their disapproval is confirmation that you are breaking free from the prison of conventional thinking. When I was young, the idea of a Corsican becoming Emperor of France was absurd. But absurdity is often the first disguise worn by destiny. Your greatest achievements will seem ridiculous until they become inevitable. Here is your first command. Double every goal you have set for yourself. Now, double it again. Feel the resistance. In your mind, that resistance is your enemy. It is the voice of small thinking, begging to preserve your mediocrity. From this moment forward, let modesty be your adversary. Let realistic expectations be your opponents. Wage war against the eye, limited ambitions that have confined you to a fraction of your potential. An empire cannot be built on small thoughts any more than a cathedral can be built with pebbles. Your vision must be vast enough to frighten you. If it doesn't, you are not thinking like an emperor. You are thinking like a prisoner who has grown comfortable in his cell. The cure for small thinking is not gradual expansion. It is explosive revolution. You must violently reject the limitations you have accepted. Burn the mental prison you have lived in. Let the ashes of your small thinking become the foundation of your empire. Remember, history never remembers those who thought small. It remembers those who thought so big they were considered mad, until they proved themselves prophets. Now declare war on your own small thinking. Let every modest goal be a casualty. Let every realistic expectation be a conquered territory. Your empire awaits, but first you must crush the disease that has kept you bound to mediocrity. The choice is binary. Think small and join the ranks of the forgotten, or think vast and carve your name into history. There is no middle ground in the pursuit of greatness. You speak of dedication, of commitment. These are words for amateurs. I speak of obsession, the force that turns mere mortals into conquerors, that transforms idle dreams into inevitabilities. Here's what most people don't understand: the greatest achievements in history were not accomplished by balanced individuals. They were forged in the fires of absolute obsession. When I planned campaigns, I did not sleep. I pored over maps until my eyes burned. I memorized every terrain, every possible route, every advantage and disadvantage until the battlefield lived in my mind more vividly than reality itself. This is not dedication. This is possession by a vision. But let me ask you this: what possesses you? What thought consumes your mind when others sleep? What goal haunts you like a ghost that refuses to rest? The mediocre mind seeks balance. The imperial mind seeks totality. When you are truly obsessed, there is no separation between your goal and your existence. They become one and the same. I have watched men die for glory, not because they were brave, but because they were obsessed. Their goal meant more to them than their life. This is the level of commitment that separates the extraordinary from the merely competent. Your obsession must be total. When you eat, your goal should sit at your table. When you sleep, it should inhabit your dreams. When you wake, it should be your first thought. This is not madness. This is the price of empire. Most fail not because they lack talent, but because they lack obsession. They treat their goals like appointments, something to be attended to between other activities. This is the strategy of the mediocre. The obsessed mind finds resources where others see nothing. It creates opportunities that others cannot imagine. It turns obstacles into advantages because it cannot conceive of any other outcome but victory. When they told me the Alps were impassable in winter, I did not seek an alternate route. Obsession demanded that we cross them, so we did. Your obstacles will bow to your obsession if you refuse to recognize their power to stop you. Here is a truth that will disturb the comfortable. Great achievement requires great imbalance. You must be willing to sacrifice normalcy on the altar of your ambition. The world will call you crazy. Let them. They called me crazy when I declared myself emperor. History does not remember the opinions of critics. It remembers the achievements of the obsessed. Your obsession must become your identity. When people speak your name, they should immediately connect it to your goal. This is not reputation. Management. This is the forging of destiny. Every great empire began as an obsession in one person's mind. Rome wasn't built by committee. It was built by men possessed by the idea of Rome. Your empire awaits the same level of possession. But understand this: true obsession is not emotional, it is strategic. It does not waste energy on dramatic displays of passion. It channels every ounce of force toward the achievement of its objective. You must develop what I call the cold obsession, a state where your dedication to your goal becomes so fundamental that it requires no external motivation. It simply is as gravity is, as time is. The difference between interest and obsession is the difference between a river and an ocean. Interest ebbs and flows. Obsession is constant, deep and powerful enough to carve new landscapes into reality. Let others pursue work-life balance. You are pursuing greatness. Let them clock out at 5. Your mind never leaves the battlefield of your ambition. This is the secret that no one tells you. The greatest achievements in history were all acts of obsession. The pyramids, the conquest of nations, the innovations that changed the world, all were created by men and women who were utterly possessed by their vision. Your obsession is not your enemy. It is your army. It will fight for you when all else fails. It will push you when motivation fails. It will keep you moving when logic says to quit. From this moment forward, do not apologize for your obsession. Do not try to tame it, feed it. Let it grow until it consumes every mediocre goal and replaces them with imperial ambitions. Remember, the seed of every empire is a single, powerful obsession. Plant it deep. Water it with effort. Let it consume you. Only then will you understand the true meaning of achievement. A general who cannot define his objective with crystal clarity has already lost the battle. I have seen armies twice the size of mine crumble because their leaders spoke in vague ambitions rather than precise objectives. Here's what most people don't understand. The difference between a dream and a goal is not desire. It is definition. Your vision must be so clearly defined that you could explain it to a child or sketch it on a single page. When I planned the invasion of Italy, I could see every movement, every position, every victory, as if it had already happened. This is not imagination. This is strategic visualization. Your goals must possess the same military precision. But let me ask you this. If I were to demand that you describe your ultimate objective in a single sentence, could you do it without hesitation, without ambiguity? If not, you are not yet ready for conquest. Vague goals create vague results. I want to be successful is not a battle plan. It is a surrender to uncertainty. I will build a business that generates 1 million in revenue within 18 months by solving this specific problem for this specific market. That is a battle plan. Your mind must become a war room where every objective is mapped with absolute precision. No detail is too small, no variable too minor. The territory of your ambition must be charted like a military campaign. Most people's goals are like fog. They can see them, but cannot grasp them. This is why they fail. You cannot hit a target you cannot define. You cannot conquer territory you cannot map. Let me teach you the art of precise ambition. First, strip away all flowery language. Remove every word that does not serve the definition of your objective. What remains should be clear enough to be engraved in stone. When I say precision, I mean military precision. What exact numbers define victory? What specific territories must be conquered? What resources must be acquired? What alliances must be formed? These are not details to be determined later. They are the foundation of your strategy. Your goal must become a living document in your mind, so detailed that you could recite it in your sleep. Every subordinate goal, every milestone, every phase of conquest must be defined with the same clarity as the ultimate objective. The amateur speaks of dreams. The professional speaks of targets. The emperor speaks of inevitable outcomes. Which language are you using? Consider this. Every great achievement in history began as a precisely defined objective. The pyramids were not built by men who said, "Let's build something impressive." They were built by architects and engineers who specified every block, every angle, every measurement. Your lack of precision is not modesty, it is weakness. It is a failure of leadership. A general who cannot define his objective cannot lead his troops. A person who cannot define their goals cannot command their destiny. From this moment forward, treat your ambitions like military operations. They must be planned with the same precision that generals use to plan invasions. Every phase, every contingency, every point of resistance must be anticipated and defined. The more precise your definition, the more power you have to achieve it. This is not philosophy, it is strategy. When you can describe your objective with military precision, your mind automatically begins to create the path to achieve it. Here is your task. Take your greatest ambition and define it as if you were planning a military campaign. What territory must be taken? What resources must be acquired? What opposition must be overcome? What exact conditions define victory? Remember, vagueness is the shelter of mediocrity. Precision is the weapon of achievement. Your goals must be so clearly defined that they become as real in your mind as the ground beneath your feet. The empire you build will never exceed the precision with which you can define it. Let others dream in generalities. You must think in specifics. Let others speak of possibilities. You must speak of inevitabilities. In the end, the size of your achievement will be determined by the precision of your objectives. Define them with the clarity of a military commander, and you will conquer them with the force of an army. When I crossed the Alps, I gave my men no option of retreat. The severity of winter ensured that our only path to survival was forward, through victory. This was not cruelty, this was strategy. Here's what most people don't understand. The presence of a backup plan is the first seed of defeat. When you give yourself an escape route, your mind begins to contemplate retreat before the battle has even begun. Most of you stand at the edge of your ambitions like timid swimmers, dipping your toes in the water while keeping one foot firmly on familiar ground. This is not the way of conquest. This is the behavior of the perpetually mediocre. But let me ask you this. What safety nets are you maintaining? What comfortable excuses have you prepared for a potential failure? These are not protections. They are prisons. When I took the crown of France, I did not keep a small apartment in Corsica as a backup plan. I committed totally. Every bridge was burned, every ship was sunk, every path of retreat was sealed. This absolute commitment became my greatest weapon. The world can sense hesitation. It can smell the fear of commitment. When you maintain escape routes, you broadcast your doubt to every person you encounter, every circumstance you face. Your very posture speaks of uncertainty. Consider this. Every great achievement in history was accomplished by men and women who made continuation of the status quo more painful than the pursuit of their goal. They burned their boats not out of reckless abandon, but out of strategic necessity. Your problem is not lack of resources, lack of talent, or lack of opportunity. Your problem is that you have made comfort too accessible. You have made retreat too tempting. You have made mediocrity too survivable. From this day forward, you must systematically destroy every escape route from your ambition, close every door behind you, burn every bridge that leads back to smallness. Make your success not just desirable, but necessary for survival. The amateur keeps a backup plan. The professional burns their boats. Which are you? Let me teach you the art of strategic commitment. First, identify every security blanket you've maintained, every excuse you've prepared, every back door you've left open. Now systematically eliminate them all. Tell everyone about your goals, not as casual conversation, but as a declaration of war against mediocrity. Make retreat socially impossible. Let your reputation hang on your achievement. Invest so much in your goal that retreat becomes more expensive than advance. Put yourself in a position where success is your only option for survival. This is not recklessness. This is strategy. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack the courage to burn their boats. They maintain too many safe harbors, too many escape routes, too many excuses for potential failure. Your commitment must be total. Every gram of energy, every second of time, every resource at your disposal must be dedicated to your objective. Anything less is self-sabotage. When my soldiers knew retreat was impossible, they fought with the strength of desperation. When your mind knows that failure is not an option, it creates solutions that timid thinking could never conceive. Here is your task. Make a list of every safety net you've maintained, every backup plan you've cherished, every excuse you prepared. Now, Begin systematically destroying them all. Cancel your backup plans. Invest your security funds in your primary objective. Tell everyone about your goals in terms so bold that retreat would mean public humiliation. Remember, the presence of a backup plan is an insult to your primary objective. It says that you expect to fail. It says that you are not fully committed to success. The size of your achievement will be directly proportional to the thoroughness with which you burn your boats. Half measures produce half results. Total commitment produces empires. From this moment forward, let comfort be your enemy and commitment your only ally. Make retreat more painful than advance. Make failure more terrifying than the boldest action required for success. Your boats are your limitations. Your boats are your excuses. Your boats are your fears disguised as prudence. Burn them all. Let the flames of their destruction light your path forward. This is not motivation. This is military strategy for the mind. When retreat becomes impossible, victory becomes inevitable. Now go forth and burn your boats. Ideas are nothing without execution. I have seen brilliant strategies fail in the hands of hesitant generals, while simple plans conquered nations through sheer force of implementation. Here's what most people don't understand. The gap between mediocrity and greatness is not in the quality of ideas. It is in the relentlessness of execution. A mediocre plan executed with absolute precision will outperform a brilliant plan executed half-heartedly. When I conquered Europe, my strategies were not always revolutionary, but my execution, it was ruthless, precise, and unrelenting. While others debated, I acted. While they planned, I conquered. But let me ask you this. How many brilliant ideas lie dormant in your mind? How many perfect plans remain unexecuted? These are not assets. They are liabilities. They are evidence of your failure to command action. The world is full of dreamers who speak of what they will do someday. Emperors do not speak of someday. They speak of now, of today, of this very moment. They understand that time is a battlefield that must be conquered hour by hour. Let me teach you the military science of execution. First, every day must begin with a battle plan. Not vague intentions, but specific objectives to be taken by specific times. Your schedule is your battlefield map. Most people treat their days like leaves in the wind, blown about by circumstance and convenience. This is the behavior of the defeated. Your time must be commanded with the same authority with which a general commands his troops. Your execution must be cold, calculating, and completely divorced from emotion. Motivation is irrelevant. Mood is irrelevant. The only question that matters is what must be done and how swiftly can it be accomplished. Consider this. In battle, a soldier does not wait for inspiration to load his weapon. He does not need motivation to follow orders. He executes because execution is his duty, his purpose, his reason for being on the battlefield. You must develop this same military relationship with your goals. They are not requests. They are orders. They are not options to be considered. They are objectives to be taken. The amateur executes when conditions are perfect. The professional executes regardless of conditions. Which are you? Every morning, attack your objectives with the same precision and urgency with which an army launches its assault at dawn. No delay, no hesitation, no negotiation with weakness. Your execution must become so reliable that it becomes boring. This is not a weakness, it is a strength. The most powerful armies in history won through disciplined repetition, not dramatic flourishes. When others speak of what they will do, you must already be doing it. When they start, you must be halfway done. When they are halfway done, you must be starting your next conquest. The gap between your current position and your desired empire will be crossed only through relentless execution, not through strategy, not through talent, not through luck, through the sheer force of consistent, commanded action. Here is your mandate. Every day, execute with such precision and consistency that your actions become as reliable as the sunrise. Let others wait for motivation. You will command action. Your execution must be systematic. Break every goal into daily operations, every objective into hourly maneuvers. Let no time be wasted, no resource be idle, no opportunity be missed through hesitation. Remember, history remembers execution, not intention. The graveyard of failure is filled with brilliant ideas that were never relentlessly implemented. From this moment forward, command your actions like an emperor commands his army. No excuses, no delays, no negotiations with weakness. Execute with such consistency that success becomes a foregone conclusion. The empire you build will be determined, not by the brilliance of your ideas, but by the relentlessness of your execution. Now go forth and command your actions with imperial authority. The greatest victories are often won by those who know when not to strike. I conquered Europe not just through swift action, but through strategic patience, knowing precisely when to advance and when to hold position. Here's what most people don't understand. Patience is not passive. It is not the absence of action. Strategic patience is an aggressive form of waiting, where every moment of restraint serves to strengthen your eventual advance. When I waited for the perfect moment to strike at Austerlitz, it was not indecision that stayed my hand. It was the cold calculation of a commander who knows that timing is as crucial as force. But let me ask you this. Can you tell the difference between procrastination and strategic patience? Between hesitation and tactical restraint? This distinction separates the amateur from the emperor. Most rush forward at the first opportunity, mistaking speed for strategy. They are like soldiers charging blindly into cannon fire, confusing motion with progress. This is not the way of the conqueror. Strategic patience requires more strength than impulsive action. Any fool can attack at the first provocation. But to hold position while your resources accumulate, while your enemy exposes weaknesses, while conditions align in your favor, this requires imperial discipline. Consider the construction of an empire. Rome was not built in a day, but neither was it built by idle dreamers. Each day of waiting was filled with preparation, with strengthening of position, with accumulation of resources. Your impatience is not ambition, it is weakness. It reveals a mind that has not yet learned the art of strategic timing. An emperor's patience is active, calculating, and more potent than thoughtless action. Let me teach you the military science of strategic waiting. First, you must understand that every moment of restraint should serve your ultimate objective. You are not waiting, you are preparing. While others rush to failure, you must learn to hold position until the moment is right. Study the terrain, gather intelligence, strengthen your supply lines. Let your opponent reveal their weaknesses through their own impatience. The amateur confuses action with progress. The professional knows that sometimes the most powerful move is to hold position. Which are you? Your patience must be predatory, like a lion stalking its prey. Every moment of restraint increases the certainty of your success. Every second of waiting should multiply the force of your eventual advance. Most people's patience is passive, born of fear or laziness. Strategic patience is aggressive, born of confidence and calculation. It is the patience of a commander who knows that timing is a weapon more powerful than numbers. When I planned campaigns, I would sometimes wait months for the perfect conditions. But during that waiting, every soldier was drilling, every resource was being positioned, every detail was being refined. Here is your mandate. Transform your waiting from passive tolerance to active preparation. Every day that you do not advance should be spent strengthening your position, studying your objective, accumulating your resources. Your strategic patience must be as disciplined as your action. Set clear conditions for advance. Define precise triggers for movement. Let your waiting serve your strategy rather than delay it. Remember, the greatest opportunities often appear to those who have the strength to wait for them. But this waiting must be a position of power, not a shelter for weakness. Most fail not because they lack action, but because they lack the strategic patience to let their plans mature. They plant seeds today and dig them up tomorrow, wondering why nothing grows. From this moment forward, hold your position with the same strength with which you advance. Let your patience be as strategic as your boldest actions. Let your restraint be as purposeful as your attacks. The art of conquest requires knowing not just how to move forward, but when. Strategic patience is not the enemy of ambition, it is its most powerful ally. Your empire will be built not just through bold action, but through strategic timing. Master the art of aggressive waiting. Let your patience be a weapon, not a weakness. Remember, the size of your achievement will be determined not just by your ability to act, but by your capacity for strategic restraint. Now go forth and let your patience be as imperial as your ambition. Motivation is a fool's reliance. In all my campaigns across Europe, I never once waited for my troops to feel motivated before ordering an advance. Victory demands systems, not sentiments. Here's what most people don't understand. Motivation is as unreliable as the weather. Build your empire on motivation, and it will be as stable as a castle built on clouds. True power comes from systems of execution that operate independent of feeling. When I conquered nations, I did not rely on inspiration. I relied on military discipline, precise systems of action that functioned regardless of mood, regardless of circumstance, regardless of personal desire. But let me ask you this. How many of your goals have died waiting for motivation to resurrect them? How many empires have crumbled in your mind because you waited to feel ready to build them? The amateur waits for motivation. The professional creates systems. The emperor builds machines of progress that operate with military precision, independent of emotional state. Let me teach you the military science of systematic achievement. First, strip every goal of its emotional components. A soldier does not need to feel inspired to clean his weapon. He does it because it is part of the system. Your actions must become as automatic as breathing, as systematic as the movement of planets. Motivation is irrelevant to the planet's orbit. It should be equally irrelevant to your advance toward your objectives. Consider this. Every great empire in history was built through systems, not sentiments. The pyramids were not built by motivated workers. They were built by precise systems of coordinated action. Most people treat achievement like an emotional endeavor. They wait for inspiration, hunger for motivation, seek the perfect emotional state. This is not the way of the conqueror. Your systems must be cold, calculating, and completely divorced from feeling. They must operate with the same precision whether you are energized or exhausted, inspired or discouraged, confident or uncertain. The difference between the mediocre and the magnificent is not in their levels of motivation. It is in their systems of execution. The mediocre rely on emotion. The magnificent rely on protocol. When I moved armies across continents, I did not wait for generals to feel inspired. I created systems so precise that inspiration became irrelevant. Success was built into the protocol of action. Here is your first command. Identify every goal that has been waiting for motivation. Now, strip away the emotional component. Replace sentiment with system. Replace motivation with military precision. Your systems must be so robust that they function even when you are at your weakest. This is not about forcing yourself to act. It is about creating mechanisms of progress that operate independently of your emotional state. Remember, motivation is a story you tell yourself. Systems are the truth you build into reality. One is as fragile as morning mist. The other is as reliable as gravity. The greatest myth in achievement is that you need to feel ready to act. The truth is that action precedes emotion. The system creates the sentiment, not the other way around. From this moment forward, let systems be your strength. Build mechanisms of progress so precise that motivation becomes irrelevant. Let protocol replace passion as your engine of advancement. Your empire will be built not through bursts of inspiration, but through the relentless operation of precise systems. Motivation may conquest a day, but systems conquer empires now. Go forth and build systems so powerful that motivation becomes nothing more than a pleasant but unnecessary addition to your advance. Let your protocols be your power. The greatest battles are not fought on physical terrain, but on the battlefield of the mind. I have seen armies of superior numbers crumble before smaller forces, not because they lacked strength, but because they lacked mental fortitude. Here's what most people don't understand. Your mind is not a garden to be nurtured. It is an army to be trained. Every thought must be disciplined. Every emotion must be commanded. Every weakness must be conquered through relentless drilling. When I trained my soldiers, I did not focus solely on physical prowess. I forged their minds into weapons more deadly than any sword, more resilient than any armor. This is the secret of true power. But let me ask you this. How do you train your mind? With the same rigor a soldier trains his body. Or do you let it wander like a civilian on holiday, soft and undisciplined? Most treat their minds like spoiled children, indulging every fear, entertaining every doubt, surrendering to every weakness. This is not the way of the conqueror. This is the path to perpetual defeat. Your mind must be trained with military precision. Every morning it must be drilled in discipline. Every day it must be tested against resistance. Every night it must be reviewed for weaknesses to be eliminated. Consider a soldier's training. He does not become powerful through comfort. He is forged through deliberate exposure to difficulty. Your mind must be trained with the same ruthless protocol. Let me teach you the military science of mental conditioning. First, identify your mind's current weaknesses. What thoughts make you retreat? What circumstances make you doubt? These are not personality traits. These are failures of training. The amateur accepts their mental state. The professional commands it. Which are you? Your mind must become a weapon so disciplined that it can be deployed at will, regardless of circumstances. Fear becomes irrelevant. Doubt becomes powerless. Weakness becomes impossible. Most people's mental training consists of positive thinking and motivation. This is like trying to win a war with parade ground displays. Real mental power comes from systematic conditioning against resistance. When my armies faced the impossible, it was not their weapons that carried them through. It was their minds. I had trained them to see impossibility as nothing more than a test of their resolve. Here is your mandate. Begin training your mind with the same intensity a soldier trains for war. Every morning, expose it to difficulty. Every day, challenge it with problems that test its limits. Your mental drills must be systematic. Attack your weaknesses with planned exercises. If rejection terrifies you, seek it out until it becomes meaningless. If uncertainty paralyzes you, make decisions under pressure until it becomes routine. Remember, a soldier's strength lies not in avoiding weakness, but in conquering it through relentless training. Your mind must be conditioned the same way. The greatest obstacle to achievement is not external resistance, it is internal weakness. But weakness exists only where training has been neglected. From this moment forward, treat your mind like a military commander treats his troops. Drill it in discipline, train it against resistance, condition it to see obstacles as opportunities for displaying its power. Your thoughts must become as disciplined as a soldier's movements, your focus as steady as a sniper's aim, your determination as unbreakable as an army's will to survive. The empire you build will never exceed the strength of the mind that builds it. Train your mind like a soldier, and you will conquer like an emperor. Now go forth and let your mental training begin. Turn your mind from a wandering civilian into a hardened warrior. Let every challenge become an opportunity to display its power. For in the end, it is not the size of the army that determines victory. It is the strength of the minds that command it. Identity is not what you are born with. It is what you forge yourself into. When I transformed from a Corsican artillery officer into the Emperor of France, it was not circumstance that changed. It was my fundamental identity. Here's what most people don't understand. You do not achieve great things and then become great. You must first remake your identity into that of greatness. Achievement follows identity like an army follows its commander. When I crowned myself emperor, it was not an act of vanity. It was a strategic declaration of identity. I did not wait for others to recognize my authority. I claimed it through the force of my self-definition. But let me ask you this. Who have you decided to be? Not who do you want to become, but who are you right now in the depths of your self-image? This is not philosophy. This is strategy. Most people try to achieve their way to a new identity. This is backwards. Identity is not the result of achievement. It is the cause of it. Every great conquest begins with a shift in the conqueror's self-definition. Your identity must be forged with the same precision with which a sword is forged, through fire, through pressure, through relentless refinement. You must burn away every aspect of yourself that does not serve your imperial destiny. Consider this. When I led armies, I did not act like a general. I was a general. When I ruled France, I did not pretend to be an emperor. I was an emperor. The action followed the identity, not the other way around. Let me teach you the military science of identity forging. First, you must declare war on your current self-image. Every limiting belief, every modest self-definition, every small identity must be conquered and replaced. The amateur works on their goals. The professional works on their identity. Which are you? Your identity must become so solid that it radiates from you like heat from a fire. People should be able to sense your self-definition before you speak a word. This is not arrogance. This is power. Most people's identity is borrowed from circumstances. They let their position define them, their background limit them, their past dictate their future. This is the thinking of peasants, not emperors. When I entered a room, people felt the presence of an emperor because that was my unshakable identity. I did not hope for respect. I commanded it through the sheer force of my self-definition. Here is your mandate. Begin immediately to forge your new identity. Not as an aspiration, but as a current reality. Speak, think, and act, not as who you have been, but as who you have decided to be. Your identity reconstruction must be total. Change how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you think about your capabilities. Let no trace of your smaller self survive the transformation. Remember, the most powerful forces in history were not weapons or armies. They were beliefs about identity. Nations rose and fell based on how their people defined themselves. From this moment forward, let your identity be your most powerful weapon. Do not wait for achievement to define you. Let your definition create your achievements. Your self-image must become as unshakable as a mountain, as clear as a military command, as powerful as an army. This is not positive thinking. This is strategic self-definition. The empire you build will never exceed the identity of its builder. Forge yourself first, and reality will reshape itself to match your self-definition. Now, go forth and declare yourself emperor of your domain. Let your identity become so powerful that reality has no choice but to conform to your self-image. For in the end, the greatest conquest is not of territory, it is of identity. An emperor is only as powerful as the army that surrounds him. In all my campaigns, I learned that the quality of your generals matters more than the quantity of your troops. The same principle applies to your personal empire. Here's what most people don't understand. Your inner circle is not a social club. It is a war council. Every person you allow into your proximity must either strengthen your empire or be banished from it. When I chose my marshals, I did not select them for their pleasant conversation or their ability to agree with me. I chose them for their capacity to execute, their courage to speak truth, and their unwavering commitment to victory. But let me ask you this. Who sits at your table of power? Are they warriors who challenge you to conquer new territories, or whisperers who comfort you in your mediocrity? Most people surround themselves with what I call agreement troops, those who nod at every idea, retreat from every challenge, and fear every confrontation. These are not allies, they are architects of defeat. Your inner circle must be forged with the same strategic precision with which you select generals for battle. Every member must bring strength, intelligence, or resources that advance your campaign. Consider this. When I planned the invasion of Russia, I needed generals who would question my strategy, not yes men who would praise it. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Challenge is the ally of greatness. Let me teach you the military science of alliance. First, audit your current circle. Who brings strength? Who brings weakness? Who pushes you toward greatness? Who pulls you toward mediocrity? The amateur surrounds themselves with friends. The professional surrounds themselves with forces. Which are you? Your inner circle must become a personal war council. Each member must serve a strategic purpose. Each relationship must advance your empire. This is not cruel, it is crucial. Most people's relationships are accidents of circumstance. They surround themselves with whoever is convenient, whoever is comfortable, whoever demands the least growth. This is the path to perpetual weakness. When I built my empire, I removed anyone who did not serve its growth, regardless of rank, regardless of history, regardless of personal loyalty. The mission must be greater than the relationship. Here is your mandate. Begin immediately to restructure your alliance. Remove the weak, elevate the strong, recruit the exceptional. Let no relationship survive solely on history or comfort. Your circle must be curated with military precision. Each member must be tested, each loyalty must be proven, each contribution must be measured. Sentiment has no place in strategic relationships. Remember, the greatest threat to your empire is not external opposition, it is internal weakness. One doubter in your war council can poison an entire army's resolve. From this moment forward, approach every relationship with strategic intent. Do not maintain connections out of habit. Do not tolerate weakness out of politeness. Do not accept mediocrity out of loyalty. Your relationships must serve your empire. Each person in your circle must bring either wisdom, strength, resources, or connections. Anything less is a strategic liability. The power of your empire will be multiplied by the strength of your alliance. Choose your warriors carefully, for they will determine the battles you can win. Now go forth and build your war council. Let no seat be filled by whisperers, doubters, or the comfortably mediocre. Surround yourself only with those who fuel your advance. For in the end, the size of your achievement will be determined by the strength of those who stand beside you. Choose warriors, not whisperers, and watch your empire grow. In every campaign I fought, defeat was not the end. It was ammunition for the next assault. When I lost Egypt, I did not retreat into despair. I used that failure to fuel the conquest of Europe. This is the military science of turning setbacks into strategy. Here's what most people don't understand. Failure is not your enemy. It is your arsenal. Every defeat, every setback, every humiliation contains within it the gunpowder for your next advance. When I was defeated at Leipzig, I did not waste time with self-pity. I immediately began extracting the strategic lessons that would fuel my return. A defeat analyzed becomes a victory in disguise. But let me ask you this. How do you use your failures? Do you let them bury you, or do you mine them for ammunition? This is not philosophy. This is military strategy for the mind. Most people treat failure like a wound, something to be nursed, hidden, and avoided. This is the thinking of civilians. Warriors treat failure like intelligence gathered from the battlefield, crucial data for the next campaign. Your failures must be processed with the same strategic precision with which a general analyzes a lost battle. Every setback must be dissected, every defeat must be studied, every failure must be transformed into tactical advantage. Consider this: every great military campaign contains defeats. The difference between ultimate victory and failure lies not in avoiding defeats, but in how swiftly you convert them into advantages. Let me teach you the military science of failure conversion. First, strip every defeat of its emotional content. A lost battle is not a tragedy. It is a tactical report rich with strategic intelligence. The amateur avoids failure. The professional converts it into ammunition. Which are you? Your relationship with failure must become entirely strategic. Each setback must be processed not through the lens of emotion, but through the cold calculation of military advantage. Most people's reaction to failure is emotional retreat. They lick their wounds, they hide their scars, they avoid similar battles. This is not the way of the conqueror. When I faced defeat in Russia, I did not waste time with regret. I immediately began converting that catastrophic retreat into lessons that would serve future victories. This is the alchemy of strategic failure. Here is your mandate. Begin immediately to mine your failures for ammunition. Every setback must be processed. Every defeat must be analyzed. Every failure must be converted into tactical advantage. Your failure processing must be systematic. Create after-action reports for every defeat. Extract every lesson. Identify every error. Convert every insight into protocols for future victory. Remember, the greatest military victories in history often came after crushing defeats. Not because of luck, but because those defeats were converted into strategic intelligence. From this moment forward, treat every failure as a military briefing. Do not waste time with emotional recovery. Move immediately to strategic conversion. Your failures must become your ammunition stockpile. Each defeat must be processed into gunpowder for your next assault. This is not optimism. This is strategy. The empire you build will be determined not by how many times you fail, but by how effectively you convert those failures into strategic advantage. Now go forth and begin the systematic conversion of every past failure into future victory. Let no defeat be wasted. Let no setback be ignored. Let no failure remain unconverted into strategic advantage. For in the end, it is not the absence of failure that determines victory. It is the strategic use of it. The greatest military movements in history were executed in silence. When I planned my most decisive campaigns, I did not announce them to the world. I revealed them only through their completion. Let this be your strategy for conquest. Here's what most people don't understand. Your vision is not meant to be shared with the masses. It is not meant to be debated by critics or diluted by doubters. It is meant to be executed with silent precision. When I crossed the Alps to surprise the Austrians, I did not broadcast my movements. I did not seek validation for my strategy. I moved like a shadow and struck like lightning. The world learned of my plan only through its success. But let me ask you this. How much of your power do you waste on premature declaration? How much of your strategy do you dilute through needless announcement? Most people treat their ambitions like town criers, announcing every minor movement, seeking approval for every small step. This is not the way of the conqueror. This is the behavior of the insecure. Your movements must be silent, but your results must be deafening. Let others speak of what they will do. You will speak only through what you have already done. Consider this. A lion does not announce its hunt. It moves in silence, strikes with precision, and lets the result speak for itself. Your ambitions must be executed with the same deadly silence. Let me teach you the military science of silent execution. First, seal your strategic chamber. Your plans, your movements, your preparations must be known only to those who are crucial to their execution. The amateur announces, the professional executes. Which are you? Your silence must become your camouflage. Let others underestimate you. Let them ignore you. Their ignorance is your advantage. Their dismissal is your opportunity. Most people's need for validation destroys their power. They seek approval before action. permission before progress, recognition before results. This is the path to perpetual weakness. When I planned to take the crown of France, I did not ask for opinions. I did not seek validation. I moved in absolute silence until the moment of coronation. The world debated my actions only after they became irreversible. Here is your mandate. Begin immediately to seal your strategic chamber. Share your vision only with those who are essential to its execution. Let your results be your announcement. Your execution must be like a blade in the night, silent, precise, and known only by its effect. The masses should see only your victories, never your movements. Remember, the greatest power moves in silence. The most decisive strategies are the ones the enemy learns of only in their moment of defeat. From this moment forward, let silence be your strategy. Do not seek validation. Do not announce your movements. Do not dilute your power through premature declaration. Your ambitions must become your secret army. Each goal must be pursued in silence. Each victory must be secured before it is announced. Each achievement must speak for itself. The empire you build will be determined not by what you declare, but by what you quietly execute. Let others boast. Of future victories, you will speak only through actual conquests. Now go forth and let silence become your strength. Move like a shadow, strike like lightning, and let your achievements be your only announcement. For in the end, it is not the loudest voice that conquers, it is the most precisely executed strategy. Your power lies not in what you say you will do, but in what you silently accomplish. Let your silence be so deep that your success seems to materialize from nowhere, leaving your opponents wondering not just how you succeeded, but how they failed to see you coming. The true emperor needs no herald. His victories announce themselves. His achievements speak louder than any proclamation. His power is felt before it is seen, and by then it is too late for resistance. Remember, the most powerful moves in history were not the ones most discussed beforehand, but the ones that seemed to emerge fully formed, as if from nowhere, changing the landscape before anyone could mount a defense. In warfare, control of terrain determines victory. But there is a terrain more crucial than any physical battlefield, the terrain of your focus. I conquered Europe not just through military strategy, but through absolute control of my mental territory. Here's what most people don't understand. Your focus is not a passive state. It is a territory that must be conquered, defended, and ruled with military precision. Every distraction is an enemy invasion. Every loss of concentration is surrendered ground. When I planned campaigns, my focus was so absolute that the maps before me became more real than the room around me. This is not concentration. This is conquest of the mind's territory. But let me ask you this. How much of your mental terrain have you surrendered to invaders? How many territories of your focus have you ceded to distractions, doubts, and divisions of attention? Most people's focus is like an undefended border, penetrated by every distraction, invaded by every interruption, conquered by every passing thought. This is not the way of the emperor. Your focus must be defended like strategic territory. Every hour must be guarded. Every minute must be protected. Every second must be governed with military discipline. Consider this. No great conquest was ever achieved by a divided army. No great achievement has ever been reached by a divided mind. Unity of focus is as crucial as unity of command. Let me teach you the military science of mental territory. First, you must map your domain of concentration. What hours are yours to command? What territories of time can you defend? The amateur accepts interruption. The professional commands concentration. Which are you? Your focus must become a fortress, impenetrable to distraction, immune to interruption, invincible against the constant assault of the insignificant. Most people's attention is a contested territory, constantly overrun by the armies of the urgent, but unimportant. They surrender their mental terrain to every invading notification, every attacking distraction. When I concentrated on a problem, it became my only reality. I did not allow my mental territory to be divided. All other concerns were banished beyond the borders of my focus. Here is your mandate. Begin immediately to fortify your territories of concentration. Guard your peak hours like strategic highlands. Defend your prime time like crucial supply lines. Your mental terrain must be governed with absolute authority. No distraction enters without permission. No interruption breaches your defenses without strategic purpose. Remember, the greatest battles in history were won through superior concentration of force. The greatest achievements in life are won through superior concentration of focus. From this moment forward, treat your attention as sovereign territory. Guard it, govern it, defend it against all invaders. Let no distraction claim even an hour without conscious strategic decision. Your focus must become legendary, so absolute that others mistake it for obsession, so complete that it seems to bend reality through sheer force of concentration. The empire you build will be determined by the mental territory you can control. A scattered focus builds nothing. A concentrated focus conquers worlds. Now go forth and begin the conquest of your own attention. Let no mental territory remain in enemy hands. Let no hour be surrendered without purpose. Let no minute fall to the invasion of the unimportant. For in the end, it is not the size of your resources that determines victory. It is the concentration of your focus. Every empire worth building will face resistance. When I marched across Europe, I did not expect nations to surrender without battle. I expected resistance and planned its destruction. This must be your mindset toward every worthy goal. Here's what most people don't understand. Resistance is not an obstacle to achievement. It is the forge of greatness. Every force that opposes you is simply an opportunity to demonstrate your power. When all of Europe allied against me, I did not complain about unfairness. I did not seek easier opponents. I simply adjusted my strategy to crush greater resistance. This is the mindset of the conqueror. But let me ask you this. How do you respond to resistance? Do you treat it as a sign to retreat or as a battlefield to conquer? Your answer reveals whether you think like a civilian or a commander. Most people treat resistance as a stop sign. They see opposition and interpret it as evidence that they should abandon their advance. This is not strategy. This is surrender. Your relationship with resistance must be entirely strategic. You must expect it, plan for it, and use it to strengthen your advance. Opposition is not your enemy. It is your opportunity. Consider this. No significant achievement in history was ever accomplished without overcoming massive resistance. The size of the resistance often indicates the importance of your objective. Let me teach you the military science of crushing resistance. First, you must expect it. Never be surprised by opposition. Plan for it. Budget for it. Let it be part of your strategy, rather than an interruption of it. The amateur is surprised by resistance. The professional plans its destruction. Which are you? Your strategy must account for opposition at every level. Technical resistance, social resistance, financial resistance, emotional resistance. All must be anticipated and planned for. Most people's plans crumble at the first sign of serious opposition. They mistake resistance for impossibility, opposition for impracticability. This is the thinking of the defeated. When I faced the combined armies of Europe, I did not wish for weaker enemies. I built stronger strategies. I forged better weapons. I trained harder troops. This is how resistance becomes advantage. Here is your mandate. Begin immediately to catalog every form of resistance you expect to face. Not to be daunted by it, but to plan its systematic destruction. Your response to opposition must be mechanical, not emotional. Resistance is not personal, it is tactical. Deal with it the way a general deals with enemy positions. Analyze, plan, overcome. Remember, the greatest achievements often face the fiercest resistance. This is not coincidence. It is confirmation that you are pursuing something worthwhile. From this moment forward, Let resistance become your ally. Let opposition become your opportunity. Let every force that resists you become evidence of your inevitable victory. Your advance must be relentless regardless of resistance, like water. Wearing down stone like armies wearing down defenses, your persistent advance must be unstoppable. The empire you build will be determined not by the resistance you face, but by your systematic destruction of it. Opposition does not define your limits. It reveals your strength. Now go forth and expect resistance at every turn, but do not just expect it, plan its destruction. Let every opposing force become a trophy of your advance. For in the end, it is not the absence of resistance that makes you powerful. It is your systematic crushing of it. Do not pray for less resistance. Build greater strength. Do not seek easier paths. Develop better strategies. Do not wish for weaker opponents. Become a stronger conqueror. Your resistance is your opportunity to demonstrate your power. Your opposition is your chance to prove your inevitability. Your obstacles are simply victories, waiting to be claimed. Remember, history remembers not those who faced no resistance, but those who crushed the resistance they faced. Now go forth and make resistance your stepping stone to greatness. Certainty is a luxury of the mediocre. When I launched my campaigns, I never had complete certainty of victory. I had only the certainty of my advance. This is the warrior's way, to move forward even when the path is unclear. Here's what most people don't understand. Uncertainty is not your enemy. Hesitation is. Every great achievement in history was accomplished by those who were willing to advance through the fog of war. When I invaded Italy, I did not have certainty of success. I had only the unwavering commitment to advance until success became inevitable. The path becomes clear, not to those who wait, but to those who march. But let me ask you this. How much power have you surrendered to uncertainty? How many advances have you delayed waiting for perfect clarity? This is not prudence, it is defeat. Most people use uncertainty as an excuse for inaction. They wait for perfect conditions, complete information, absolute certainty. This is not strategy. It is surrender to mediocrity. Your advance must be relentless, regardless of clarity. Like an army marching through fog, you must move forward even when you cannot see the entire path. Consider this. No commander in history ever had perfect intelligence before a campaign. No achiever ever had complete certainty before their triumph. They advanced, and clarity followed. Let me teach you the military science of advancing through uncertainty. First, accept that complete clarity is a myth. Even the most detailed plans meet the chaos of reality. The amateur waits for certainty. The professional advances through doubt. Which are you? Your relationship with uncertainty must become entirely tactical. It is not an obstacle to be avoided, but a terrain to be conquered through relentless advance. Most people's response to uncertainty is paralysis. They mistake lack of clarity for lack of opportunity. They confuse incomplete information with impossible odds. When I marched on Moscow, I did not have certainty of victory. I had only the certainty of my advance. Each step forward revealed new information, new opportunities, new paths to conquest. Here is your mandate. Begin advancing immediately, regardless of uncertainty. Let each step forward be your source of clarity. Let movement be your method of gathering intelligence. Your advance must be methodical but unrelenting. Like a great army moving through unknown territory, you must combine careful observation with relentless progress. Remember, the greatest opportunities often hide in the fog of uncertainty. Those who wait for perfect clarity miss the advantage of being first to act. From this moment forward, let uncertainty become your ally. Let it be the force that drives you to move while others wait, to act while others hesitate, to advance while others retreat. Your progress must become independent of perfect information. Advance with what you know. Move with what you have. Let clarity come through conquest, not contemplation. The empire you build will be determined not by how much you knew at the start, but by how relentlessly you advanced despite not knowing. Now go forth and make uncertainty your advantage. Let it be the reason you move while others stand still. Let it be the force that drives you to create the future rather than wait for it. For in the end, it is not certainty that creates achievement. It is the willingness to advance without it. History remembers not what you planned to do, but what you executed. When they speak of my legacy, they speak not of my intentions, but of my actions, the battles won, the codes written, the empires built. Let this truth guide your path to greatness. Here's what most people don't understand. Legacy is not created through declaration. It is forged through execution. Your noble intentions, brilliant ideas, and grand plans mean nothing without the force of implementation. When I reformed the French legal system, I did not simply envision a better code of laws. I executed its creation with military precision. The Code Napoleon exists today not because it was well conceived, but because it was relentlessly implemented. But let me ask you this. What brilliant plans lie dormant in your mind? What potential achievements are dying slowly in the graveyard of good intentions? This is not planning. This is procrastination. Most people treat their legacy like a fantasy, something to be imagined but never built. They dream of what they will create, what they will achieve, what they will leave behind. This is not legacy. This is delusion. Your execution must become your signature. Let others be known for their dreams. You will be known for your achievements. Let others speak of what they will do. You will be remembered for what you have done. Consider this. No monument in history was ever built by intention alone. No empire was ever created through planning. It is execution, relentless, precise, unwavering execution, that turns vision into legacy. Let me teach you the military. Science of legacy building. First, understand that every day of non-execution is a day of legacy lost. Time does not wait for your readiness. The amateur plans legacy. The professional executes it. Which are you? Your relationship with execution must become religious. Every day must see progress. Every hour must witness advancement. Every minute must serve your legacy's construction. Most people's legacy dies in the gap between intention and execution. They carry their potential achievements to their graves, forever unfulfilled because they never bridge the gap between planning and action. When I built my empire, I did not wait for perfect conditions. I did not wait for complete approval. I executed with what I had, where I was, relentlessly advancing toward my vision. Here is your mandate. Begin immediately to execute your legacy, not to plan it, not to perfect it, but to build it through daily, unwavering action. Your execution must become legendary. Let your name become synonymous with completion, with achievement, with the relentless transformation of vision into reality. Remember, the greatest legacies in history were built not by the most talented, but by the most determined executors. Execution trumps talent every time. From this moment forward, let execution be your only measure of progress. Plans are nothing. Intentions are nothing. Only executed actions count in the ledger of legacy. Your legacy must be built with the same precision with which a mason builds a cathedral, one stone at a time, each placed with purpose, each contributing to the final glory. The empire you leave behind will be determined not by what you plan to build, but by what you actually constructed through daily execution. Now, go forth and let execution become your hallmark. Let every day see progress. Let every hour witness achievement. Let every minute serve the construction of your legacy. For in the end, history remembers not what you intended to do, but what you actually did. Legacy is not built on potential, it is built on execution. Your name will echo through time, not for your brilliant plans, but for your completed works. Your memory will endure not through what you meant to do, but through what you actually achieved. Remember, the greatest tragedy is not death, but dying with your legacy still trapped within. You, unexecuted and unrealized. All great empires begin in the throne room of the mind. When I rose from obscurity to become emperor, the first territory I had to conquer was not France. It was myself. This final lesson is the foundation of all others. Here's what most people don't understand. The greatest battle for empire is not fought on external fields. It is waged in the chambers of your own mind. Every external conquest is merely a reflection of internal victory. When I crowned myself emperor, the physical crown was merely a symbol. The true coronation had happened long before, in the silent battles fought within my own consciousness. But let me ask you this. Have you claimed the throne of your own mind? Do you rule your thoughts with imperial authority, or are you still a subject to your fears, doubts, and limitations? Most people seek to conquer external territories while their internal empire lies in ruins. They chase outer achievements while their inner world remains ungoverned. This is not the path to true power. Your first and most crucial empire must be built within. Every thought must be subjected to imperial authority. Every emotion must bow to strategic command. Every impulse must serve the empire of your purpose. Consider this. Every great ruler in history first learned to rule themselves. Their external power was merely an extension of their internal sovereignty. Let me teach you the military science of internal empire. First, you must establish absolute sovereignty over your mind. Your thoughts are not suggestions. They are subjects to be commanded. The amateur seeks to conquer the world. The professional first conquers himself. Which are you? Your internal empire must be governed with the same precision with which you would govern nations. Every province of thought, every territory of belief, every region of habit must serve your imperial purpose. Most people's minds are like ungoverned territories, chaotic, rebellious, subject to every passing influence. They seek to build external empires while their internal world remains in anarchy. When I unified France, it was because I had first unified myself. Every external victory was simply a manifestation of internal conquest already achieved. Here is your final mandate. Begin immediately to build your internal empire. Establish sovereignty over your thoughts. Command your emotions. With military precision, let no internal territory remain ungoverned. Your self-mastery must become absolute. Like an emperor commanding his realm, you must bring every aspect of your internal world under strategic control. Remember, the size of your external empire will never exceed the scope of your internal sovereignty. You cannot command others until you can command yourself. From this moment forward, let your first and greatest conquest be internal. Build an empire of discipline within your mind. Establish a dynasty of determination within your will. Your internal empire must become unshakable. Let every thought serve your purpose. Let every emotion fuel your advance. Let every aspect of your being align with your imperial destiny. The ultimate empire is not built of land or gold. It is built of character, will, and unshakable purpose. These are the territories you must conquer first. Now go forth and claim the throne of your own mind. Let no thought rebel against your purpose. Let no emotion betray your empire. Let no weakness survive your internal conquest. For in the end, all external achievements are simply reflections of internal victory. The empire you build in the world will never exceed the empire you build within. Your greatest legacy will not be the territories you conquered, but the internal sovereignty you achieved. Let your name become synonymous not just with external achievement, but with absolute self-mastery. Remember, the true emperor rules first, from the throne room of his own mind. All other conquests flow from this first and greatest victory.